Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to the Momentum Connected podcast, episode number 2. This week, we have our second episode. I have with me Tum, who is Momentum's brand manager.
Hi guys, I'm very excited for this OpenMinded episode, and for this one we just wanted to kind of like reintroduce Momentum and just give a little bit of background for people who don't know us or just started following us, or new members, clients. Tell us about Momentum, like how it started and like the inspiration behind it. Why did you choose to start a fitness studio instead of, I don't know, a clothing brand, for example?
Okay, so a little bit of background story. I am an engineer by trade. So out of university, I was working in the oil and gas industry, and I was based in Tanzania. I think actually my last project was in Mozambique.
Okay.
And then, the world went through this whole crisis with the oil and the prices dropping, and then the industry it was a big shakeup with the industry. People were losing their jobs and just became a bit unstable, and so kind of at that point, I'd been looking at wanting to try my own thing, but I kind of was a bit nervous to get out of like your comfort zone with your existing job.
Yeah.
But when all of that happened, I think it was like a prompt for me. It was like, okay, look, I really want to do my own thing, and I think now is the time to give it a shot. Mm-hmm. So with regards to fitness, it's always been a passion thing for me, really. So, in my mind, I was like, if I'm going to like quit my job to start something, I want to make sure it's something that I enjoy doing, something that I can wake up and know I'm happy doing it, I'm passionate about it. And I think that's really important if you want to start something from scratch. So when I wanted to do my own thing, I thought, I think the fitness space or the health and well-being space in Kenya is still very untapped. I think there's a big opportunity there. And so we decided to give it a shot. Group-based training was kind of relatively new in the market. And worldwide, they've just had the explosion of products like F45, Orange Theory in the US. So basically, the whole concept was to set up something similar. In the Nairobi market, I think there wasn't really any facility that was dedicated to group-based training. The whole idea was to kind of follow that path, not really reinvent the wheel, but just take that group-based training model and kind of make it our own and introduce it to the market here.
And also like change a little bit also the perspective of like how people think about fitness here.
No, exactly. The fitness industry here has been, I would say, very one-dimensional, in my opinion, for a long time. So the whole idea was to come into the market with something different, and just kind of get a sense of how people would respond. I think there's a risk every time you kind of start a business, right? But for a long time, things have been so mundane here with regards to fitness studios, with regards to gyms, health clubs. It's just all in the same thing, So I really believe that bringing something fresh, new, and exciting would do well. So Momentum was set up, and here we are. We set up in end of 2017. So 2018 was our first full operating year. So we had 2 years, 2018, 2019. They did, touch wood, go really well. And then 2020 was our year where we were looking at projections and how we were doing in comparison to what we projected. And things were going really well. And then
so
COVID happened, right? So, now it's been, I think this is year 5. But it feels like we lost 2 years, right? So in my mind, I'm still like, we've had 2 full years.
Still here, so.
And, that's a big one. COVID was a really tough time for our industry, but we're still here. And we do see some light at the end of the tunnel, for sure, definitely. I think there's still lots of scope for us, lots of scope local here in Kenya, and lots of scope in terms of the global market. In terms of the direction the health and wellness industry is going. Yeah.
Interesting. So now you mentioned that you were really passionate about fitness back in uni, right?
Yeah.
But when you started, did you think that you would be also teaching classes? Because for example, people that don't know you,
yeah.
Okay, you're the co-founder and stuff.
Yeah.
but you're also leading a few classes here. So
Yeah.
is it something that you wanted to do when you see yourself doing?
Yeah.
Or or did it just happen?
I mean, I think it just happened. To be honest, it's not something that I kind of was like, yes, I want to do the teaching. You know, a big part of it, you know, was getting the right people on board. You know, I'd had conversations with Jake and Abby, you know, where they were at previously in terms of, you know, me wanting to set up Momentum and getting them on board as, you know, as coaches to help with the, you know, the classes and the teaching. And that's something that I didn't really see myself wanting to do. I was more like, oh, I need to handle the ops and the sales and, you know, all that nitty gritty. And it was still all foreign to me, right? Because I've never run my own business. So it was going from employment to trying to run your own business.
Exactly. But that's also,
you know,
the thing when you start.
Yeah.
You find yourself in a position where you have to do A, B, C, D.
Exactly.
You know? And
Exactly.
So maybe that's also like what happened.
No, absolutely. And, you know, like, so like where we're sitting right now is a little coffee juice bar that we have. We had designed as part of the facility. And, you know, I found myself like closing the till at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. every day because it was like, oh, it's one of the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
And someone's got to do it, you know. And when you start your business, I think, you know, you end up being that person who does everything,
Exactly.
right? You know, you're like doing this, close the till, sign members up, answer the phone, you know, it's like everything. So I was essentially I was doing everything other than teaching the classes, right? And then as time went on and I learned a lot about operations and processes and procedures and what do we have to put in place to take the next step forward. I realized that, okay, once things are in place, I got a little bit more free time. And to be honest, going back to your question, I think COVID had a big part to play with regards to me getting more involved with the teaching aspect. So through COVID, obviously we were shut, the business was shut, and everyone was at home and we were all trying to figure out like, okay, what's the next step? What do we do? When do we open? When are we going to get the green light from the government? What's right? What's not right? Where do we go? And so once we did get the green light and we were able to reopen, it was a question of, we've lost some staff members, so we're not the same full team that we had prior to COVID. And now as we reopen, what have we done or what are we doing going forward? Some of the coaches who were with us, because they didn't really have work during that COVID period, they decided to do their own thing. So I think a lot of it stemmed from that. And it was like, okay, now I'm here. What can I do to get people through the door? And I think COVID was such a difficult period for so many people that it took a lot of convincing to try get people out of their homes to come and work out at the gym, So I think that was like the first step into teaching and like, ensuring that our members and our clients feel comfortable and, kind of filling a gap, right? And then from filling that gap, it then became, oh, wow, you know what? I actually really do enjoy this. And I think I do want to continue doing this, but in a limited capacity because I know I have other roles and responsibilities and I'm not going to be able to successfully, teach 6, 7, 8 classes in a week. So it's more, again, just stemming from passion. It's like, I got a taste of it. I really enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, I want to continue this.
As long as you enjoy it, I think it's
absolutely. And I think also as a small business, I think it's always nice for our members, our clients, our staff to feel like everyone is involved and everyone is engaged. And, also from a bigger picture standpoint of view, when you do one of the tasks that is like the core tasks of what your business is offering, it helps you refine your product, right? So you really understand the importance of things like timing, music, how to motivate people, So when you then kind of step into your leadership role, you have firsthand experience of what you expect from your other coaches. How do you, when you go to recruit coaches, how do you know who's good and who isn't? What are the attributes that you look at in terms of recruiting staff members, So I think that's also another important aspect into, getting involved, getting down, getting your hands dirty, and really understanding that's the core of what the business is, But yeah.
Okay, interesting. So now, according to you,
Yeah.
what is MOM3NTUM's best accomplishment until now?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I think that's a tricky one. I mean, I would say the community that we've managed to establish over the 4-5 years that we've been operational. If you look at some of our members now, you'll see that a lot of them are people who joined within the first year of our operation. So I think being able to have that community is a huge sense of accomplishment for me and for what I envisaged the brand being. Because, we always wanted to be different in the sense of we're not a mass market traditional gym, We had kind of different principles, different goals of what we wanted to achieve and, how we wanted to impact people's lives. And so like bringing together this community was a big, big aspect for us and for me personally. And I think, that's probably one of our biggest achievements.
It's interesting how also like people now feel so connected to MOM3NTUM.
Yeah.
That they just want to stay,
Yeah.
And so like you saying that building a community and stuff, that's the most important part of what you've been doing, I think that's really important because people need to feel like they need to feel that they belong to a place,
Absolutely.
And it's not just about fitness, it's more than that. It's about like
exactly
being part, like belonging.
Belonging to something, exactly.
Okay, so what do you wish you knew before you started the business?
Wow, a lot. But let's
in terms of let's in terms of like business.
Okay, so I would.
Yeah.
So I can say, as a certain accounting, financing, basic principles.
Okay.
I feel like money and all the stuff related to money is really crucial for a business. And this is a passion project for me, and passion is one aspect of it, but I think not looking at the bigger picture when it comes to finances, meaning like funding, meaning operationally, that whole big picture, I think I underestimated what it was going to be like and the difficulty of that, because without finances, you don't have a business, right?
Yeah.
So that for me was one thing that I wish I had more insight into. And just people management is one of the hardest things in the world. For me personally, I think just dealing with different personalities, how do you get the most out of someone? How do you motivate people? How do you keep people on track? It's so difficult. And I think
especially when you're trying to do it by yourself, right?
Exactly.
You don't have anyone else to kind of like help you also help
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. And the reality is when you start your own business is you're not going to have someone to help you with that, you are going to have to build into that and come into that. But I think it's also like when you look at coming from a big corporate company, and looking at HR and being like, everybody hates the HR department and they're useless and they're not worth anything. And it's, but when you get in the mix of it and you realize, wow, dealing with people is hard, and if you're a small business and you're starting off by yourself, who's monitoring who takes leave days, who's monitoring this, who's taking sick days, how do you get people to come? I mean, there's so many aspects to it. So yeah, I mean, I think we can go on for ages, but I think it's just a process of, starting somewhere and understanding what are the key things that you want to look at in terms of before you start your business, and how do you target them in whichever way you can, right? If you're not able to get a full-on HR department or a full-on person to be your HR like rep or whatever it is, how do you try fill that gap as a start?
Yeah.
How do you try identify and say, okay, HR is going to be one of the things that me as a business owner is going to do, And so then you have a clearer picture, And if you're going to do the basic day-to-day bookkeeping and accounting, then that's also like, okay, I have full control as to what's coming in, what's going out, who's getting paid, how they're getting paid, and all of that. So you need to understand all of that. And I think that transition from being in a corporate job to this, that was challenging.
Yeah,
it was very challenging. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up in a couple of minutes, but just two more questions.
Yeah.
So one is, what are you the most proud of?
Personally, or with regards to the brand?
With regards with MOM3NTUM.
With regards to the brand?
Yeah.
I think it would be just the relationships that have come about, the community that we've built. I've met some really interesting people over the time, made some really good friends. But the relationships, and I would say, progress for a lot of people that have been involved with the business. I think we started somewhere, and if I look back and all the people who are still involved with the business, I feel like I can see growth in everyone. So I think that for me is a big one. I feel like, if you start a business, personally, you want to see growth. I think that's just a no-brainer. But it's also, what is the growth process for the other people that are involved in your business? And for me, that's a big win.
Like how like your business impacts also other people's growth.
Exactly.
Like how the business growth
impacts. Exactly. So if you grow, how do the rest of the people that are involved or impacted by your business, how do they grow? And have you potentially opened a door for someone to be better than what they were, or to potentially excel in an area in which they're at? You know what I mean? So I think a lot of that, it comes down to that really for me,
That's a great aspect of also leadership,
Yeah.
How like the way you lead also like impacts other people's life and etc.
Yeah.
Okay, and now last one. What are the three main things you would advise young entrepreneurs or young business owners who also wants to start the business? Because I also feel like people here, like everyone wants to start their own business.
No,
right?
absolutely.
So what would be your three advice to
them?
Yeah. To
okay, so
the three most important
key
things
things
that people have to think about when they start.
So
business.
3 key things. I probably start with time as number one, right? I think a lot of people look at getting out of a corporate job or their job, whatever it is, and the whole appeal of starting your own business, being an entrepreneur is, I have more time off. I don't have set leave days. I can do what I want more often. I can play more rounds of golf, or I can go to the gym more, whatever it is, right? But I think when you take that step into like running your own business, it's the exact opposite. Do you know what I mean? You actually don't have time off, because if it's your business, you gotta be there, 24/7 you're working. And the reality is, successful businesses, in my opinion, are not built overnight. Absolutely. So it will take you years of grind and hard work and doing this nonstop, so that time aspect, I think, is really important. But again, like, I can go into detail more, but it's such a huge topic, right? But just understanding the reality of what you're getting yourself into, and understanding that, okay, if you took this step, you don't want to start halfway and be like frustrated because like I'm doing everything by myself. I don't have time off. I don't have, days off, and it just becomes a big challenge, right? So time, definitely one of them. I would say the second one is communication. I think communication is a really, really important one. If you want to start your own business, you got to know how to communicate, right? That comes internally, whether you're communicating to people who are part of your team or your staff. What are you trying to get out of the business? How do you communicate to them? How do you communicate to them when things are going well? How do you communicate to them when things are not going well and you need to rally the troops and you guys have to do something to turn the corner? So I think communication is a big aspect, and that ties into leadership, right? I think good leaders are people who can communicate with the full spectrum. And then selling. You have to be a good salesman. I think that's a really, really important one. Sales and marketing is so crucial to any business. So crucial to any business. And I think that is personally a mistake that I made when we got into Momentum, and I wasn't sales oriented enough. I was too operationally oriented and not sales oriented enough, because, you know, at the end of the day, you don't have a business if you don't have sales, right? So you can have the best ops, everything is waxed, everything is in order, but if you don't have sales, then all of that doesn't really get used, you know? So I think know how to sell, your sales strategy, your marketing strategy, what you want to do for that, how you're going to do it, who you're going to do it to. I think that is a key aspect for any business, you know? And if you don't have that in mind prior to starting, then I think that's something you really need to think about. Yeah.
All right, that's it for us, guys. Thank you for being with us today. And make sure you follow us on Instagram, Momentum_fitness, same for Spotify and YouTube. And we'll see you in the next episode.
See you next week.